Today I'm going to break down the blueprint on how I squatted 600 pounds. It's a really big lift for me. The reason I really wanted to see if I could do this was because I feel like most men, an average size guy, if you train hard enough, you can squat 500 pounds. 600 is pretty advanced. That's something that I really want to push towards. It goes without saying that I did this all on a vegan diet. I think we got that movie Game Changers that's coming out, focusing on vegan athletes. A lot of athletes are going vegan, if not just going plant-based and reducing their consumption of animal products. And it's proven that people are really performing on it. And I wanted to accomplish something that I felt was incredible for myself as an athlete, not just as a vegan athlete, just as an athlete in general. So I'm going to break it down for you guys here, the program that I used, the strategies that I used, and what I felt was effective and what I would have changed a little bit. Here at Veg Athletics, we focus more on traditional sport or team sport athletes, basketball, swimming, hockey. There's very few instances where this extreme of a level of strength is going to be helpful for an athlete. Maybe hockey, football, rugby, the collision sports. Bigger guys might be getting up to this level of strength, but it is fairly rare. So this is something I just want you guys to look at just from a weight training perspective and less from an athletic perspective. I train out of Fortis Fitness West. Really great training facility. So we have a ton of equipment there, and I do have access to some specialty bars, which I used all through this training cycle. So I used the cambered bar, which is a big spread out bar with drops that the weight is racked on. Kind of creates instability, so why I really want to use that. The safety squat bar takes the stress off your shoulders. The weight is pushing you forward a little bit more. You can really just focus on your hips in the squat, and there's not a lot of cues for your back and things of that nature, but really great for strengthening the back because of the position of the weight. And then finally the Duffalo bar, which is basically a bent barbell that allows for me, for the shoulder restriction that I have in my shoulders, to get in a really strong tight rack position on my squat without stressing my shoulders. So I would cycle through each of these bars, and I was doing so and this is a 16-week program. I'm gonna break down the first 12 weeks for you guys here. For the first 6 weeks, I was doing one of those bars twice, 2 weeks in a row. And then I would switch to the next bar 2 weeks in a row. Okay? For the latter half of the program, I was doing switching every single week. I'm as advanced enough of an athlete that I felt like I needed that change in stimulus every single week, because after the first 6 weeks, I was getting really just kind of intimidated of hitting a safety squat bar for, I think one week I did 475 plus some bands, and thinking about doing 485 the next week. I was like, oh my god, let me just switch to another bar, and automatically I was invigorated. That made a big difference. If you don't train a facility like that, and you don't have a lot of specialty bars and things of that nature to select from, the exercises that I would use is a regular free squat, a competition squat, maybe a front squat, the bar racked forward, strengthening your back, kind of simulates that safety bar squat, and then a box squat where you're sitting back, you're stopping on a box and then exploding back up, breaking up the eccentric concentric changes. There's no bounce happening. I was still using a box for almost all my squats, but if you had lack of equipment, you might want to remove that box for a few more of your sets. Okay, so I was training 3 days a week. There was a max effort day, there was a repetition effort day where I worked up to a percentage, and there was a speed day with extremely lightweight. I forgot my speed percentages there, but I go 45 to 60% on my speed day. I was also cycling through bands, chains, and straight weight. Okay? For any of you guys that, I'm sure a lot of people do by now, but any of you guys don't know, bands create compensatory acceleration, cause you to explode and be aggressive through the full range of motion. Chains do similarly, but not as aggressively as the bands. And then I would cycle back to straight weight, to give my nervous system a little bit of rest. and then B, to not lose the feel of what straight weight feels like. You still want to move it explosively as if there was bands on it, but what does it feel like? I didn't want to get thrown off because I wanted that 600 to be obviously a straight weight squat. I did squat above 600 a few times with bands and chains at the top at least. I was cycling through those every week, okay? Or sorry, in the first every 2 weeks. So I'd hit a cambered bar squat, 400 pounds, plus a light band for a double. And then I'd come back the next week and see the exact same lift and see if I could beat that double by 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds. Then the next cycle I would switch and maybe it was safety bar squat versus 100 pounds of chains. Here for a max double, see if I could build on that the following week. Again, after the 6 weeks, I tested. At that point, at this week 6, I hit a squat PR of 550. Or no, I had previously hit 550. I missed 575. But then I dove back in and built my way back up. So you do want to make sure that you're going in and practicing those competition lifts. The first day, max effort day, you're just learning to strain. So you're hitting I was working either max doubles or then later on max singles. You don't want to miss any lifts. I think in this entire training cycle, I only missed 2 lifts, 2 squats out of, I want to say thousands, including warm-ups and all that. So you're hitting that max effort, and you're learning how to follow your cues and strain against heavy weight. And when I got under that 600, I wasn't panicking. You feel like you've been there before. Then I would drop down, and I integrate. The biggest difference is that I started integrating triphasic training. Triphasic training means you spend weeks at a time working at each component or portion of an exercise or of a lift. So there's a eccentric portion when you're lowering a weight or absorbing a force. There's an isometric when you have to stop it and hold it for a second. It's a split second in most lifts, but you are reversing the weight. It goes from one direction to going the other way. And the concentric, which is the pushing, where you're exploding, where you're creating force. So I would do 2 weeks where I was focusing on eccentrics. The first 6-week wave was 4-second eccentrics, 4 seconds on the way down. And once I got good at that, and I came back to it the next 6-week wave, I did 6-second eccentrics. Okay. I would work anywhere in the realm from 70 to 77%. And this 6-week wave, I was going up close to that 77% number, and originally I was probably closer to that 70% number. I would go by feel though. I give you percentages there so you can go by feel. The next 2 weeks after that, I work on the isometrics. For me, it was pause squats. I was going down to the bottom of the squat, pause, 2-second pause up here for that first 6 weeks. 1, 2, explode up. Come down, pause. 1, 2, explode up. I try to increase it a little bit as well as increase the load. I made that a 3-second pause in the next 6-week wave. Don't worry about the Circumax, we're going to get to that later. And then my third day, day 2, I'd come in and I'd do that same triphasic work again. So I'd hit my max effort, drop set of either isometrics, eccentrics, or concentrics. And whatever I did here, whatever phase I'm in, I come back again on day 2, and I try to work up to that same percentage and do it again, right? It's fairly difficult on that day 2, especially because you're extremely tired, exhausted, possibly sore from that day 1 workout. But you come in, you put in the work. I was always aiming to get 16 reps, except for maybe on the isometric week, because pauses you can only really handle 2 or 3 reps in a pause set because you're spending a lot of time in that bottom position. But on my concentric days where I'm just repping out at probably around 85-90%, and my eccentric days where I'm going super slow, I want to see if I can hit 16 reps. Generally 4 sets of 4. Okay? So there were some days where I would do 3 reps, and I have to rack it and stop there, and in my head I'm like, okay, Jordan, today all you're going to get is 3 sets of 3. And I would get 9 out of 16 reps. Not the worst. If I got 12 out of 16 reps, I consider it a win. Less than that, maybe you're not recovering too well, yada yada yada. Speed work, I'm coming in. Speed work, I wouldn't really switch bars or anything like that. I was starting off my speed work with a cambered bar, I think, for the first half. And then I switched and stuck with the Duffalo bar, so I always had a feel for that competition bar. That's the bar that I squatted my 600 pounds on. So I'd come in, I would do 2 explosive reps, anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute of rest, and 8 sets of that, okay? On top of that, fairly lightweight, I'd throw some bands. I think later on in the cycle I threw in some bands and some chain, maybe 50 pounds of chains and 70 pounds of bands, light bands. And I would do that speed work in rounds. So 2 reps, quick break, 2 reps, and do that for 8 sets. Then I take a 2-3 minute break, and then I do it again. I might throw a little bit of weight on the bar when I did it again. Speed work, you're really gonna go by feel. You're practicing lift, you're practicing being explosive. So in a way, with that speed work integrated, I'm practicing the concentric constantly being explosive. I have that broken down for you guys down here. So again, 4 second eccentrics for the first wave, and then I went to 6 seconds as I got better at it. Eccentrics are going to be the toughest by far. Lowering that weight really slowly is torture, man. It's tough. Especially with really heavy crushing weight, especially if you have bands on the bar. You're fighting the speed that those bands are coming down in. For my supplemental movements, okay, so building up certain different areas of my body, the things that I really need to build up. I spent probably more than a year really building up my back. So I got into Tennessee my last competitive year of powerlifting. I got this from Matt Wedding. I was doing 100 reps of rows or pull downs to the 200 reps of rows or pull downs before I'd even start bench pressing. So I'd had to spend a lot of time building my back, and I continued to build on that. Every workout I'd finish with at least 100 reps. Rows, pull-ups, not 100 reps of pull-ups. Pull-ups I'd probably do 50 reps when I'm doing pull-ups. Pull downs, so for the cable I'm doing 100 reps, or face pulls. Same thing, I'd be doing 100 reps. So reps and reps and reps and reps of back work. And that gave me a really strong, stable back. When I rest a bar on my back, even though the bar's twice my body weight, triple my body weight, I don't feel like I'm being crushed or overwhelmed by it. That's how big and strong my back is. Abs, to keep everything nice and tight, support my spine. A lot of people do get back injuries when we start talking about weight that gets this heavy. It's easy to have something move out of place and hurt yourself. So the ab wheel is my favorite tool for use on that. I'm doing anywhere in the realm of, I do a standing ab wheel now, not from the knee. Standing, I'm strong enough that I can handle that load. I'm doing anywhere from 5 to 10 reps. And then hanging leg raise, I like that because I'm getting the decompression of my body weight pulling on my shoulders a little bit, and my legs at least pulling on my spine a little bit. And then you're getting the ab work of lifting your legs and lowering. Okay? A big key was the McGill Big 3. Stuart McGill's website, backfitpro.com, if you guys want more in-depth stuff on this. He's been on tons of podcasts. Aaron Horschig's Squat University is one that I listen to very in-depth, as well as Brian Carroll, who Stuart McGill wrote a book with. Because one of my biggest, I love elite level strength, but one of my biggest fears is hurting my back. Again, some kind of crazy injury. So the McGill Big 3 is the McGill Curl Up, the Bird Dog, and don't tell me, the Side Plank. Okay, so I would start off with 2 rounds of those during my warm-ups. I was just literally listening to another podcast someone else's podcast that he did, where he reiterated that you have to do them every single day, or they're not going to be effective. I felt they're effective for me. I was only doing them in my warm-ups maybe 3 days a week. But next training I do, I'll be doing them every day. So if you guys are following this program, do them every single day. If you're squatting big and heavy, do them every single day. It's not hard to do. Built up my hamstrings, glute ham raise, good mornings. Later on, when I was having issues with my hips, I'll go into that depth later. But I was having issues with my hips because I'm a very wide squatter. And even though I'm wearing gear, I'm wearing squat briefs on most training days. That's a lot of load. It's a lot of load bearing down on your hip in a position that it's not necessarily built for. So I started integrating more single leg work. So I started doing single leg deadlifts, I do traditional RDLs a lot, usually with dumbbells. And then for the quads, I started working in rear foot elevated lunges. Because if you are seeing me squat on camera and you look, you'll see a slight shift as my body shifts over to the left a little bit. Even when I cue myself to pull my body over to the right, that's kind of the body, the position my body falls into, and that can lead to issues. For me, it was leading into hip impingement. There were days where my left leg felt like it was like falling out, like it was gonna fall out of the socket. And I would go and get massage, and I have some rehabilitation drill. I've worked a lot with hockey, and hockey you get a lot of abuse in the hips from skating, so I do have some drills that I went right to for that. But I would warm up with band good mornings or wall good mornings just with a plate and band TKEs, and I was able to build my quads, which for me was probably weaker. I have very strong, well-developed hamstring, quads not so much, but I was able to build those up with the band behind the knee TKEs or sissy squats. I would start with them in my warm-up, probably 60 to 100 reps, and then I'd probably finish with them again on my speed work day, because it's a lighter day. I'd get in probably more of this stuff. So prehabilitation, aside from those areas that we had to build, I had to, once I started dealing with the hip impingement, I had to adjust my box height. Brian Schwab goes over this in his M2 method program. We're just dealing with loads that the body wasn't meant to handle, right? So it doesn't always have to be full range of motion, full competitive range of motion at least. So what I started doing, and this 6-week cycle was every third week, I would lift the box height, and I would relieve my hips. My hips is no longer being pressed down to a position that it doesn't want to go into. And just having that box 2 or 3 inches, not even 3, 2 inches above parallel or an inch above parallel, for me was fine. Everybody's hips are built differently. A lot of times Asian people have hips where they can go really, really low in a good, decent squat position. There are other people that can't. I'm one of the people that deep squat position, even in my weightlifting, I'm doing front squats, things of that nature. I'm not super, super deep on that. I would adjust my stance. So I'd go for my wide stance, and I'd go into what's a narrow stance for me, which to most people looks like a normal squat. I'd bring my feet probably just under my hips or just outside. And I did squatting from there, and I was surprisingly almost as strong. I was within 5% when I bring my stance in like that, and it was way easier on my hips. I was squatting to depth to a competition depth box with no pain when I adjusted that stance. So I manipulate one of these variables every third week. That's the caveat that I would do even right from the beginning of this program. Don't wait until your body's in pain. Get stronger in different positions, and you'll get stronger long term, and you'll stay healthier. Okay, when you try to get strong or build performance in one specific area over and over and over and over, overuse injuries like that. I would adjust the intensity of the second session. So listen to your body. I'm a big fan of listening to my body. When I was trashed and exhausted, this 70 to 77% was 70, 71, 72%. When I was feeling it and I was nice, I went all the way up to 77%. Maybe I pushed it to 80%. But adjust the intensity of that second session. Again, I didn't hit the 16 reps that I planned, that I wanted to hit every single time. If I hit 12 reps and those 12 reps felt like death, if I got through them, they were technically proficient, I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to destroy myself to get that 4 sets of 4. To this Circumax phase, I listened to a podcast with Louis Simmons, who's the best equipped powerlifting coach in the world, and he broke down their peaking phase for competition. So I said, let me go by what he says. So 3 weeks out from when I want to squat that 600, I went 60% on my projected max and 40% in band tensions. For me, that was 240 pounds of band tension. So I had a heavy band and a medium band, or most gyms, a green band and a purple band on each side of the bar. I did use the safety squat bars to save my shoulders. It wasn't the same competition bar, but it all came out to the same weight. Killed it. I think I hit that maybe just over 600. You can't always calculate exactly with the bands, but I got what I needed to do in straight weight. Next week, well, the next 2 weeks, it was all recovery. It's just your nervous system recovering. So I came in, I only did one of these workouts. Some people might feel like they need to do two. But for my nervous system to recover, I just needed one. 2 weeks out, I had 75%, 2 sets of two. They didn't feel amazing, okay? That's around, maybe 450. I think 450 was the number. And then 1 week out, I had 50%. Again, to be honest with you, didn't feel great. I left this session not knowing if I had that 600. It wasn't as explosive as I would want it to be, but I waited. I trusted in the process. Worked out. I'll know with you guys, even though I spent all this time learning how to strain and cueing myself under incredibly heavy weight, I actually missed that 600 on the first attempt. My warm-ups didn't feel amazing. I worked up to 600. Maybe went too low, maybe lost my cues, but I missed it. Shout out to my beautiful girlfriend Linda. She said, Jordan, all your warm-up, your 575, I think it was, looked good. Go try that again, do it again. When it did it again, it was tough, but I got it. And it was not as tough, to be honest with you, as a lot of the other lifts that I had done in training. Sometimes it's just a mental thing. But yeah, guys, that's the breakdown. 16 weeks is something that worked tremendous for me. I've done the kind of conjugate system before, but the thing that was brand new to me was the triphasic training, and I've heard a lot about it. Didn't trust it a ton in terms of results for maximal strength, but there's no arguing with it now. I will go back to this program. It's probably not going to be effective the next couple times I run it because of my body's first exposure to it. But triphasic training is tremendously effective. I recommend it to everybody to try it out. And I'll give you guys a note that I do a lot of different things. So through this whole training process, I was out in the field sprinting probably at least once a week. I won't say twice every week, but some days twice a week. I was doing these 3 activities, sprinting, biking, or swimming, at least 2 days a week, usually 3 days a week. And I'm talking an easy 400 to 800 meter swim worth of swimming. I'm breaking that down. Different strokes, front crawl, back crawl. It's just something I enjoy. Getting my body moving. I love spending time on my bike. I have a beautiful titanium Canadian-made bike, and I was doing anywhere in the realm of 20 to 40 kilometers on my bike during the week. And then I'm not a big distance running guy, but I love just getting out doing some hill sprints. The sprints I think really helped my body. I'm a grinder when I lift, so I think sprinting helps me get that fast twitch ability back, and I find that I am, in combination with the speed work, I am lifting much more explosively. I'm much more explosive than I've been before. So yeah, it's 600 pounds. For me, that's tremendous. It's close. I did this at a body weight of 165. Very close to 4 times my body weight. Very close to the drug tested Canadian record. So in the next year, my plan right now, at least, is I'm thinking I'm so close that I'm gonna try and go for that Canadian record. But yeah, 600 people, 600 on a vegan diet. Veg Athletics is the firm. You guys let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help. Take care.